Hey guys, Horror Man back for another review. So today we're going to take a look at the ultimate Robocop figure. Now of course this is made by NECA Toys and it's part of their ongoing line of Robocop figures. So just taking a look at the packaging, it does have this kind of like, I don't know, like a metallic or like kind of pearl feel to the box, and it has a little bit of a different look to it when you move it around. So I'm not sure if that'll show up good on camera, but it's a really high quality box, so I really like that. And I love the image on here. It's a very iconic Robocop image. So if you're going to make an ultimate Robocop, this definitely should be the image on the box. So I'm pretty happy about that. It just says part man, part machine, all cop. And then you get the cool Robocop logo, and then of course it says Ultimate Robocop. On the top you get that same Robocop logo, and you get a cool picture of Robocop at the top. You get a really nice view of the side with the Robocop logo and the new Peter Weller unmasked head sculpt. And then you get the regular helmeted head sculpt on this side. And then over to the back, again, you get that same kind of read up that you see on the front, but it also says the future of law enforcement. And then it kind of shows you some different pictures of the figure with some of the different accessories, interchangeable parts. It does feature this spring-loaded holster, and then there's a little description like just of the contents. And then over to the front again, you do of course get that signature style packaging where the flap can open in the front with the Velcro. You do get a cool picture of the figure here, and then you also can see the figure inside clearly displayed once you open the flap on the front, and you can see all the different contents inside. And then of course on the bottom you do get the UPC, some of the different licensing, different partners and whatnot, and then just people responsible for making the figure happen. So this is a pretty exciting one. I actually missed out on the first Robocop releases, so the only one I have is the NES version, which is very similar to this one. It's just a different paint deco for the most part. So I'm really happy that I finally get a regular Robocop in my collection. So let's go ahead and get this out of the packaging and get a closer look. Alright, so here he is outside of the packaging. So before we get too far into this, I always like to show these. This is basically like the background you get with the figure. So a pretty cool looking background. It's very similar to the background I'm actually using. So you got the brick wall, the trash bags, just basically like an alleyway. So pretty cool, and these always make for good photos, so if you like to do toy photography. So we'll take some close-up details of the sculpt, the paint, and we'll take a look at the interchangeable parts, the accessories, articulation, and we'll do a little bit of comparisons. I don't have a lot of Robocop stuff, unfortunately, but we will take a look at some of the stuff I have. But we'll definitely do some comparisons with NECA and some things of this era, just to give you an idea how he scales with everything. So let's go ahead and get a nice close-up of the first head sculpt. Alright, so taking a look at the first Robocop head sculpt, and this is the, of course the helmeted version that's on him inside of the box. And I really like this head sculpt. I mean, it's definitely the one you're going to want if you want one helmeted head sculpt of Robocop. You got to have just this classic, just neutral face sculpt. But I think they did a really good job with it. You definitely see some different lines in the face. I know it's definitely at least a very similar head sculpt like we had before. I don't know if it's exactly the same because I don't have that original. But I wouldn't be surprised if the details in the face are a little bit better. You could definitely see the lines show up really nice on there. So overall I'm really happy with the way it looks. And then really nice details on that helmet. If you ever look really close in the movie, he definitely has OCP written on his helmet, and it does say police, and he has the number on there. So really nice detail on that, and of course you have that little bolt on the side of the helmet where it allows him to take the helmet off. And then really nice details in the back as well. This little hole here, I believe, is where he was hooked up to that part of the chair. So yeah, man, just really nice details overall, and he's definitely not like just silver. He's got this like pearlescent type of look, which is just like what he looks like in the movie. Now, as cool as this head sculpt is, and it's probably going to be the one most people will display, It's almost worth getting a second one, or at least having a reason to still appreciate your old Robocop, because these head sculpts will actually work with your old one. But you do get the awesome unmasked head sculpt, or unhelmeted head sculpt. And of course, that's Alex Murphy, played by the very well-known Peter Weller. So this is something that people have wanted forever. So I'm really happy to finally get this. So you can interchange the head, and then you just have that ball peg right in there, like so. And then you have the Peter Weller head sculpt. Alright, and then here is the Alex Murphy head sculpt. And this is something that we have really never had. If you bought the Hot Toys version, that's really the first actual Peter Weller likeness as far as I know. I do have the original figure, which I guess was supposed to be him. I don't know if he was ever paid for that, or it probably was in the licensing. But this is really the only other one besides Hot Toys that actually looks like him. So that's really cool. And I think NECA's done a really, really nice job with bringing out the details in this head sculpt. I mean, just looking at the details in that face, it just looks so realistic. I mean, I know that, you know, Marvel Legends, like Hasbro, has a decent printing software that they can get some, you know, pretty good head sculpts sometimes. But I don't know, man. I just think NECA's really, like, top of the game. They even have that, like, scar on his forehead. Very cool detail. There's really nice detail work on the back of the head as well. Definitely just tons of sculpting in there. So just excellent details overall. So taking a look at the rest of the figure, you're pretty much going to get what you'd expect. Pretty much what you had before. You do get some really nice detail work again in the sculpting. Really nice reflective metal tones to the paint, which I really like. And again, it's got this very pearl type of look. You can see some different accents of like blue and almost some different variations of like just like a pearl accent. So really nice details on here. And of course you got the black, kind of like that glossy black. Really nice details on the arms. He's got that kind of like badge on his right side of the chest. But yeah, man, just overall really nice details in the torso. And over to the back, again, just really nice sculpting work, a lot of different gadgets and I don't know, just different details in this armor, all the things that he gets plugged into, all the different holes and different areas. So really cool details. Definitely a complicated figure if you think about how much details goes into this. And then finally down to the lower half, again, just the same quality of sculpting work you'd expect. Just really nice detail work overall. You can see he's got the toes and the feet here. Just really very consistent sculpting. You can see all the different like divots and like circular just like sculpted details that kind of translate from the arms to the thighs. Very similar like armor all throughout. So again, just really, really nice details overall. And then if you look at the back of him, you can see there is some black for like the joints and then just in there. So it really hides the joints well. And the way this like armor is designed, it actually makes such a good figure because you could hide the joints really well. And then you have these really cool pistons for the feet. So whenever you move the ankles, it kind of looks like the pistons are going up and down. So really nice detail on that. And then of course you do have two peg holes on the bottom of the feet if you want to use a stand, but he really doesn't need one. He actually stands very well. Alright, so taking a look at the articulation, I do want to start with the unmasked head sculpt here because the articulation might actually vary. The one big difference between this head sculpt and the helmeted head sculpt is there's no like that like black chin strap part, and it's actually kind of a flub in the movie because when he takes his helmet off, that black chin strap is non-existent. So let's go ahead and take a look at the articulation. So he can look off to his right really well. He can look off to his left, no problem. He can look up, kind of. The armor in the back of his neck kind of hinders it. but he can look down really far. He can definitely pivot really good, so you get some nice expression in there. So yeah, overall, he's got really good articulation in that unmasked head sculpt. Alright, and then taking a look at the articulation with the helmeted head sculpt, he can look to his right, no problem. Look to his left, no problem. He can actually look down pretty far, so it doesn't look like it actually gets in the way too much. I don't think he looks as far down with this head sculpt as the unmasked, and he can't really look up really at all. You do get some nice pivot, so that's pretty cool. So again, pretty good range in the head sculpt. Now of course he can't go real far out with his arms, and it's because of the way those arms are constructed. There's no real drop down method. So if you go out to the side, like rotate his arm, he can go out a little bit more, but still not that great. You do have pretty good range with the elbows. Not quite 90 though. He can move at the torso pretty good. So if you want to do like a walking pose, can't really crunch or go back real far. He's not going to be doing any splits with these legs. When he goes out, like when he moves his leg up, kind of goes out to the side a bit. He can move his knee down that far. And again, you do have that cool piston action with the rotation. But he doesn't have any ankle pivot, which kind of sucks. So pretty good range. Oh, and also he does rotate at the wrist, which is nice. So you get a little bit more, or at the kind of like in between the elbows. So right toward the forearm, that's where he rotates, which is interesting. So you're not going to have that regular wrist articulation. It's going to be a little bit farther back. So not the greatest articulation, but considering he's the robot, so it makes more sense, I guess, in real terms. But as a figure, not overly articulated. Alright, so taking a look at Robocop's accessories here, you do get a fair amount of stuff, which is nice. So first and foremost, you do get his main weapon, which is like his giant handgun. It's called an Auto 9, and that actually will go into the holster on his side, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But you also get his data spike right hand, which is also a weapon if you've seen the movie before. And then you also get this really cool, it's called a Cobra assault cannon, and this is basically what he steals, or what he ends up with from Clarence Boddicker. He does use this weapon toward the end of the movie, so really cool that they actually included that. And then you also get this like blast effect that goes on to the handgun. So pretty cool accessories. And then of course we've already looked at the Peter Weller head sculpt. So for an ultimate, Robocop figure, they definitely hit all the marks for what the accessories we need and what's really like kind of iconic at this point for the movie. So once you get the holster open, you basically put the gun in like so, and the trigger basically has that little peg that kind of goes in there. So it looks pretty cool if you want to display it like this. I will say the function is not the best. It's kind of hard to get this thing to stay in here without this wanting to jump off. So I'm not like sold on this feature. I always thought it was kind of cool, but honestly it's kind of more of like a potential breakage and pain in the butt than anything else. But it can make for a really cool photo, and it is somewhere to store the gun. I just don't think it works that good. Here he is with the data spike hand, and that fits pretty good on there. You can see you definitely have to change it right at the forearm. And then here he is holding the Auto 9, and he holds that really, really nice in his right hand. And then here it is with the blast effect, just in case you want to do some action shots, and it just snaps on to the end of the barrel, and it fits in there pretty good. And then finally, here he is with the Cobra assault cannon, and you can see that this thing is huge. It is a really big gun. And if you don't want him to hold it, you do have the option of just folding these like little pieces down, and it could just stand up. So if you wanted to have him kind of like mount this somewhere, and just kind of like maybe he's getting ready to shoot Ed 209 or something like that, but it does have that stand, so if you want to use it just like he does in the movie. Alright, so for the first comparison, now this is going to be an in-box comparison. Sorry about this, because I actually never took the NES Robocop out of the box. I did take the plastic off the box, but I never actually took the figure out of the box. So, but that's okay, because I do want to show you the packaging anyway. You can see that this is the style of the original Robocop, which was the NES one, and it's basically the style from the game. And they do use the same image on it. It's just that it's kind of shrunk down a little bit with different logos in the front. And then you don't have the Velcro on the box for the NES one. Back in the day, they just didn't do that. So, but you can see the paint deco is much different. You get the more cel-shaded paint job with the NES. And then the back of the box also, of course, looks different. It's just going to be kind of just features that this one has. So definitely a similar box, and they'll look really good next to each other on the shelf, but a much different looking figure. Here he is next to a couple fellow cyborgs. So you have the T-800 endoskeleton and then T-800 Terminator. And for one more Terminator comparison, here he is next to the John Connor, which is the young John Connor from Terminator 2. And then you have the Terminator, like the T-800, but this is actually this old Kenner homage, like toy homage figure. Here he is with a couple other NECA figures. So you have the Part 3 Jason, and he does have a custom hockey mask. And then you have the old battle-damaged Predator from the original movie. And I can't remember what helmet that's from. I think it's like an old Predator, but this is the battle-damaged body. And then here he is again with a couple of NECA figures. So you get the Michelangelo from the 1990 movie, and then you have someone else that likes their hardware. So you have the 1990 Shredder, and again you can see the color difference between the Robocop and the armor on the Shredder helmet. Here he is with an old Army of Two figure, and then you have the 89 Batman, and I think these guys fit pretty good in there. He kind of looks like one of those like thugs that would be shooting Robocop. And then of course you have the 89 Batman, which I've always thought him and Robocop were kind of similar anyway. Both kind of slightly tragic characters, and just like the cowl and everything. And they came out around the same time, so really cool to see these two next to each other. And then for the final NECA comparison, here he is next to a couple Resident Evil characters. So you have Hunk from the original Resident Evil, and then you have Leon from Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4. This is his Resident Evil 4 costume, but I like that he has like the cop lettering on there, and then of course you have the kind of SWAT team looking version of Hunk. So they could probably look pretty cool in a set of photos if you just want to have some like various like cop or military help for Robocop. And here he is next to some of my other Robocop figures. I do have a few more, but they're all just going to be like that minis. I do have some Mezco Mezits somewhere, but again, they're kind of in that scale with this one. So this is the Funko Mystery Mini, and these are the Kenner Robocop figures. And these are a little bit different than the standard movie ones. These were like the cap firing ones, so they kind of had like a gunmetal color to them. And what I always liked about the original one is the helmet actually does come off. So you would kind of get like the idea of Peter Weller. I mean, obviously it's a very old figure. It doesn't look just like him, but it was definitely cool that he had a removable helmet. Here he is next to some Marvel characters. So you get the Hasbro Marvel Legends Armored Spider-Man, and then you have the Diamond Select Ultron. And this is the comic Ultron, not the movie. The Ultron scale is pretty good with the Robocop, but the Spidey's just a little small. But again, you can definitely see the variance in color between their armor. And then for the final comparison, here he is next to a couple Mortal Kombat characters. If you remember, he was a guest character in one of the Mortal Kombat games. So here you have the Scorpion and Cyrax, which is a cyber ninja. But both of those are made by Storm Collectibles, and they look really good next to Robocop. So if you want to try to do the Mortal Kombat stuff, you could definitely do that here. Alright, so that's my review of the Ultimate Robocop figure by NECA Toys. And overall, I really do like the figure. It does, however, have some setbacks. For me, it's really just that holster that's a huge problem. It just doesn't function right. And I remember hearing a little bit about those in the past, and people weren't really happy with them. And I just never had the experience with it. But I did watch some videos and see how it worked before I did this. And you also do get this little kind of instruction book about how to actually work this thing. But it just doesn't function that well, unfortunately. So that's the only real downside I have to it. But aside from that, it really was kind of hitting the marks for me. I really love the Peter Weller Headsculpt. I think they've done a really good job on it. And it's definitely something that a lot of fans wanted for a long time. And I can't say enough about like how I love the pearl look to this armor. It just looks really, really good. It definitely brings out the more realistic look of the armor. And I just think it shows up really good on camera. So if you really like to do toy photography, or if you're really just looking for like that perfect Robocop to fit in with your NECA stuff, this is definitely going to be it. I just don't highly recommend that holster function. So thanks for watching my review. If you liked the video, please like it. If you'd like to see more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe. And if you have a comment or question, go ahead and leave one. Until next time, guys. See ya.